Hello, everybody. It is Renee and Dee, and we are here talking about soups and breads today. So before we get started, I just wanted to explain. I know we've had some recipe card glitches, so I have my special gal, Melissa, who is going to start taking care of us and helping us with our recipe cards so that you can download them. But what I want you to know is on the recipes, so if you just go out to the photo album, so like today's photo album is called Soups and Breads, go to that photo album and all you have to do is click on the pictures of each of the soups and breads and the recipe is right there. But what we are going to be doing today is when you type in the word recipe, you are going to get access to this downloadable recipe book, which is super fun and it's interactive and it's got different recipes in it. So pumpkin spice recipes, anything that you're going to want to see or, have for the holidays, whether it's Thanksgiving holiday or so we've got some of Dee's recipes incorporated into here. So just helping you with all of these different recipes that you want to create. You can download this, and we added Debbie Parsons' Christmas pudding to here. And then, of course, we have Dee's fabulous pumpkin pie. And then lots of great tips for surviving the holidays. So you can, when you type in the word recipe, you are going to be able to access this downloadable recipe book. So, all right, Dee, now that I've done all my housekeeping, say hello to everybody.
Hello, everybody. How is everybody today? It's a gorgeous day.
What's happening in Medicine Hat this week?
Whew. Well, we're sunny and windy and about plus 11 today, which is about a 10-degree change from yesterday. So Mother Nature doesn't know what to do with herself. She's a middle-aged woman suffering from some hormones. That's what I'm going with this week. So it's all over the place. So.
I was complaining because out here in Northern California, it dropped from the 70s to the 60s, which does not make me happy. But I'm going to take it.
Yeah, winter's definitely.
So tell us what you created, just like a little snippet before we add the pictures up there. What have you been cooking? I know that I saw your video yesterday and somebody stole everything out of your refrigerator, right?
It's a good problem. It's a good problem to have. I have a few gentlemen in my house that love homemade soup. And I have an almost 18-year-old that's on a low carb keto kick. And so he's like, is this low carb? Is this no carb? What is this? So he is loving all the homemade soups and stews that I make. Because a lot of the homemade soups they're so thick, they end up like stews. And so I wanted to get ahead of the game this week. I wanted to do a different recipe each day so I could take a lovely picture and give myself more time to get the presentation going. So I got the soup parts done, but I just put them in those. I don't know if any of you have bought those. They're black Costco containers with the sealable lid, and I stacked them in the fridge. And so yesterday I went to pull them out to take the pictures because I was ready to do a little live to show you all my work. And they were there. And I'm like, what? Like all of them? Who took them this morning? And they both did. Yeah. And so they were both laughing at me. They were like, whatever. They're like, you're cooking for us. And I'm like, yes, I am cooking for you.
Yeah, well, guess what? You can eat after the show.
Yeah. So I guess it's kind of a little, so there I thought I was so smart, but they got me again. So yeah, we go through a lot of.
So you guys, what you have to understand is Dee and I are both coaches. I'm in Northern California. Dee's up in Alberta, Canada. And so we're both going 100 miles an hour. Dee's got all her kids and sports and her coaching, and then she's creating constantly so that you are inspired and have new stuff. And then I'm over here in Northern California. I have a 16-year-old. I have my clinic here. And then I am always doing educational videos, and that's my passion. And so by the time we meet up on Tuesday evening, Dee's staying up until midnight, finishing up all her creations and sending them out to me. So if we're behind on things, just forgive us. All righty. So if you are just jumping online and you are here to enjoy our cooking show, first of all, push the share button. The more you share, the more audience we have and the more our show grows. Push the heart and like button. So the more that we get you at commenting and pushing all the emojis, sending us emojis and hearts and likes, the more Facebook gives us a bigger reach. So if we can have you do that, we love that. And always, always say hi and tell us where you're from and ask us your questions, send us your recipes. And so let's say hi to a couple of people that I see already here. We have got Sandy. She's already downloading that holiday recipe book. And Deb, love Deb all the time. And we've got Kelly. Hi, Kelly. And Rhonda, love Rhonda. And Jennifer is one of my clients. And so thanks you guys for joining us and always sharing our show. Okay, Dee. The first picture I always select and put up, because I got control, is the one that I want to hear about first and looks the most amazing.
That's awesome. This is a version of sauerkraut sausage soup. So, as always, we have a wide variety of followers. Most are across North America and Canada, but many of us come from many different backgrounds. We are all really just one great big melting pot, kind of like all the different vegetables that you could throw in a soup. Really, it is. And so I know that many of these recipes that I may be presenting to you, you have your own awesome way of making them. And that is great. And I want you to make and share and give us your versions, because I'm simply always just kind of presenting one idea to you. And I know that many of you are going to have some great additions to make those even better for all of us. So please don't be shy. Please share. But this is sauerkraut sausage soup. Now, sauerkraut is a phase 1 allowable. If you are buying jarred sauerkraut and you're not making it yourself, no problem. Simply just read the ingredients on your jar to make sure that there's no sugar additions, anything that you can't have. There's a lot of different varieties when you get to that grocery store. And so you are going to not just be looking at the carbs and the sugar, you're going to be looking at the actual ingredients. So if there's added sugar anywhere in that label, you just put that jar back and keep going. But you can use jarred, ready-to-go sauerkraut. I did in this one, and it makes it so quick and easy. And instead of doing a fatty pre-done sausage, I chose to do lean ground pork, and then I scramble fried it and drained off the extra fat because I just want the lovely meat itself without all the extra fat, and then spiced it myself. So sometimes spicy sausage is really a great addition to a soup, gives lots of flavor, but you can go ahead and just spice that meat yourself. So that's what I did here. And my main veggie in this guy was the kohlrabi, because it's so nice and peppery in this soup. So really easy, nice and spicy. You can add a lot of heat to it. My hubby yesterday finished it off with some Frank's Red Hot in there. And I said, oh, did it need more heat? Because I already had the red chilies in there. And he's like, no, it was just good. So, there he was, tweaking it a little bit more too. And you're going to see a really common theme in my soup recipes, and that is that I do use green onion and garlic in a lot of them because I'm really looking for those earthy, savory smells and flavors in them, but you don't have to, or you could change them up. So, yeah. Any questions for me?
So Dee, tell me what inspired you. I've never heard of sauerkraut soup, although I really, really love sauerkraut. This really like hit home with me.
So cabbage slash sauerkraut is probably one of the most widely known, but in the land of vegetable shopping, it gets left behind. People are sometimes scared of cabbage. They're scared of it being a cruciferous vegetable. They're scared that cabbage may cause me gas, or, they're scared that, oh, I won't have a good way enough to eat cabbage because it takes 48 hours, to get through my body, all of those kind of things. Which, fair enough, but if you're putting the work in, you're going to get the results, whether it's cabbage or broccoli or celery or cucumbers, right? So I really like to encourage the wide use, but at this time of the year, cabbage is also, here's my word, it's so economical. Cabbage is just, you get a ton of vegetable for the amount that it costs. And a lot of clients love to can their own sauerkraut, or they make just homemade batches, kind of like dill pickle or refrigerator pickles. They can do the same thing. You can make refrigerator sauerkraut. So it's really easy and accessible to use. The really fun part of that is that I then took some of the sauerkraut and baked it into a bread. And that is also, it's basically cabbage and bread, and it is, an awesome addition because totally, Deb just nailed it. It is comfort food. One more thing on the cabbage, because I do have one more cabbage guy coming to you, not in soup form, but it's something I've talked about before, and it is a traditional recipe from my dad's Slovak heritage, and that is halushki. And it's a dough, it's a potato dough, and you eat it traditionally with cabbage and bacon. So it's comfort food, and it's really delicious. So
delish.
Yeah.
My grandma was German, and of course she made everything herself, and she would make amazing sauerkraut, and it's hard for me to eat store-bought sauerkraut because it's not the same. All right, you guys, if you're on here, push the heart button, the share button, and give us your comments. Tell us where you're from. We always love to hear where you guys are from. All righty here. So this looks, you know what? I love how Dee is, she creates those things that we need when we are on phase one. And instead of feeling, a lot of my clients will tell me, I feel deprived. You do not need to feel deprived from bread. You can make this low carb bread, and this can cross over all borders so that when you get into maintenance, you're still making low carb bread. Love this.
Absolutely. This is, any bread recipe that we have made out of protein packs absolutely can be carried on into phase 4. And I would actually encourage people to. I don't see any reason to go back to regular, bread once you're done. Your vitamin and minerals are basically added into breads. They're enriched. They don't naturally contain all the wonderful things that your body needs. And so it's kind of, it's propaganda is what a lot of nutritional labels is, a lot of misinformation. So we still have to be diligent no matter, what area of the phase that we're in. But these little guys here are perfect for dunking into soup or just having them on the side on their own. But this is my version of a garlic and onion bun. And so, of course, in phase 1, we are limited to our green onion. You can cook with that green onion. You can enjoy that green onion raw, but it's the only onion, part of the onion family that we can cook. So I put him to good use in most of my recipes because I do like onion. So in phase 4, you could simply switch it out to have real onion real onion, you know what I mean? If you like, and of course, I'm a big fan of garlic, always. And so and grated into this garlic and onion bun is kohlrabi. So it's fine grated kohlrabi, and that's what gives this bread some awesome moisture and texture. So protein powders tend to be dry, but when we use our vegetables, it always adds great moisture into our baking. And so that is really the bones of that bread. So this one uses a plain pancake and the potato puree. It does use your oil amount in each serving for each day. So this recipe, I would recommend splitting in half. You could reduce the oil, no problem if you so choose. We do get a lot of client requests on ways to hide their oil because they forget about it. So they still need to get it into their day. So baking with it or drizzling it over top. So if you didn't put the oil in your recipe, you could simply drizzle over top of this bread after while you enjoy it as well too. So yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. And you know what I was thinking when you just said you were talking about that recipe, I was thinking you could take this and make it in like a loaf and then cut it and put it in maybe the oven under the broiler and then make it into croutons that you could like toss in your salad.
Totally.
That just came to my mind.
The great thing, lots of viewers, they're in phase 1, but if you were in phase 4, you could easily grate some cheese into this super low carb bread. You could put a dollop of, real butter or whatever into your, there is ways to make amendments for whatever phase that you're in. But if you are in phase 1, it's palatable. It's tasty. So that's our goal, right? We want to give you options where you're feeling satisfied. So that bread recipe with a serving of soup at lunchtime or dinner, doesn't matter, goes a long, long way. Hot liquid in the belly, and you know what too, the aroma of baking is very soothing to me. So I don't know if it's soothing to anybody else, but it's almost like a stress relief for me. And I don't even have to eat it. I just like the process and the smells that are in the kitchen. So
yeah, that's interesting because I just this morning I always do my gym video, and I was talking about how we relate different kinds of flavors and foods and smells to different situations. And a lot of that is taking it back to times of comfort and, being at grandma's house or mom making us stuff or what have you. And I used to bake with my grandma. So when you do all this baking stuff, I don't bake anymore, but when you're baking and I see how passionate you are about it, it reminds me a lot of that time. So I love it.
That's awesome.
Okay, so let's say hi. Connie says, love watching you ladies. Deb says, I have cabbage and venison soup going right now. That's awesome.
Awesome, Deb, and thank you, Connie.
So if you are just jumping on, hit the share button, the like button, the heart button, and tell us where you're from. Okay, Dee, this looks amazing too. And I can't believe that you were able to create a clam chowder. Yum, yum.
So, and that clam chowder actually cooked in my crock pot all night last night, everybody, because my original version was gone. The really neat thing about clam chowder is everybody does, not everybody, but there's different types of clam chowder. But when I think of clam chowder, the one I'm thinking of is always New England clam chowder, the creamy base. But really, the great flavor doesn't actually come from the cream base. It actually comes from the clams themselves. And I used chicken stock. That is my preference. You could use vegetable stock. In the first batch that I made for us, I used, instead of bacon is in traditional clam chowder, which is great for phase 4, and you'll actually see bacon in this one. In the original one, I did lean leftover bone-in ham. So you were allowed to have ham, and it was awesome in this soup. And so, but that was it. That was all the ham that I had. So I did have bacon in my freezer, so that was my substitute. You could do both. So there again, phase 1 to a phase 4, lean ham is allowed in phase 1. Awesome, awesome, awesome. Turnips were my potatoes in this soup. They were my choice for my mock potato. I do love celery in clam chowder. You could add other vegetables as well, but I actually didn't want to overwhelm the soup. And one little tip that I want to give you when you are creating your soups and you are on something like phase one, lay out your ingredients before assembling. So decide, is this batch going to have 8 ounces of protein or 16 ounces of protein? Am I going to need 1 cup of vegetables per serving or 2 cups of vegetables per serving? Decide that first so that then when you have your finished product, you know, hey, if I divide that into 4, I'm going to get 4 ounces of protein and 1 cup of veggies, or 4 ounces of protein and 2 cups of veggies, and so on and so forth. So just write it all down, and then just adjust your seasoning to taste, because really that's what soup making is all about. So we're giving you baseline ideas, but you might need more or less seasoning than I've put in to suit your palate. So that's the easiest way to do soups and stews, is do your creating first. So for example, in this pot, I simply have 2 cups of turnips, 2 cups of celery, that's my vegetables, that's 4 cups plus my green onion. The green onion, they really do cook down to not much, but you do have to count them in your recipe making before. And then a can of clams, I wish I would have written it down. I think it's about 155 grams, but if you drain the juice off those clams and weigh them, the actual raw clam meat is about 5 ounces. So I did 2 cans of clams for 10 ounces and then 6 ounces of ham, so that I get 2 equal, so that I can get 8 ounces. So 2 full servings of protein in that batch of soup. So that's how you do things. You just math it out before you start, and it just makes it really easy for tracking and storing and dividing it up. And when you divide your servings up, if somebody gets a tablespoon more vegetables, in vice versa, don't sweat it. don't sweat it. It's going to be close. So
yeah, it's gonna be okay.
Okay. And then
Alrighty, let's see what we have now. This looks like I'm loving the whole sauerkraut thing. One of these days we have to like do a show on how to just actually do all of this.
Yeah.
Because you know, your sauerkraut creates a lot of health in our digestive system, and you know, a lot of times when we've gotten ourselves to maybe not so healthy of a place, our digestive system isn't working properly anymore. And adding all those probiotics and prebiotics and all these veggies in, it does take time, but they will heal us from the inside out. So tell us about this.
So this is the sauerkraut bread that went with the sauerkraut soup. And that whole plate plus 2 more slices was 1 serving. So the really neat thing about this is that is 1 pack of potato puree and a 1/4 cup of sauerkraut. That's it, just a 1/4 cup. And I did drain off the liquid, but I didn't squeeze the liquid out of the sauerkraut, just drained it. I did use 1 whole egg in that bread. You wouldn't have to, but I really love the fat from the egg yolk and a little bit of fluff that I do get from the white, but you could decrease it if you didn't want that much egg, but it turned out so good just as is. And just like you said about your croutons, you can toast this. You could, so I toasted a few pieces and dipped it in my sauerkraut soup last night to give it a go. And again, so the same spices that I used in my soup, I used in my bread. And it was so awesome because you get a bite and it's pretty spicy, you know, it's got great flavor to it, but then you take another bite and I hit like a red chili pepper. And so then there was even that heat in the bread. So it was a lot of fun, actually. It turned out to really good. I was happy with it. So sometimes I make something many times before I decide that, yeah, it's pretty good. But this one I made once and went, oh, I'm keeping you. So
yeah, it sounds delicious.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so tell us where you're from, and tell us any recipes that you would like us to recreate. So today, when you type in the word recipe, these recipes aren't going to come up, but the holiday ebook is going to come up, and it's got a whole bunch of recipes and then a lot of tips on how to traverse the holiday season. So just type in recipe and that will be coming into your Facebook Messenger. Okay, Dee, this looks delish also. So last but not least, we got the hamburger soup.
Mm-hmm. And I have to be honest with you, this is last week's picture because I just didn't have time to redo my hamburger soup because that was the last of my bone broth in yesterday. So last week we did a little bit talking, or 2 weeks ago we were talking about chicken stock, bone broths, how to make them, how to store them, how they can become a tool in your kitchen. And beef bone broth to me, it's a staple. It's a must-have. And so it is the base of my hamburger soup. And I will tell you that if you take the time to make actual bone broth, it does add a lot more flavor and dimension to your soup bases. It adds a lot of richness to your flavor. So for hamburger soup, I really, really like bone broth. So beef bone broth is the base. I did use extra lean ground beef in my hamburger soup. I love to scramble fry it with the garlic and onions to start to get the flavors going. I keep the spices in hamburger soup very, very, very simple for the fact that your ground, beef and your vegetables, they are going to marry together. So the longer you let homemade soups and stews sit, the better. They always taste better on day 2. Always, always, always. And if you simmer for 2 hours, only 2 hours, and then you simmer for 10 and taste the difference, you will taste the difference. The other thing that I really, really love about things like hamburger soup is there's not a right or wrong vegetable to place with something like hamburger soup. So if you think of places think of like you eat a hamburger, some of you might put tomatoes on it, or think of dishes that you eat with hamburger in them. So I haven't put a vegetable in hamburger soup that I don't like. Pictured, you're going to see turnip, you're going to see French beans, you're going to see tomatoes. Fresh or canned is fine as long as there's no added sugar. Cabbage is in this one. Sometimes I use celery. So if you are a phase 1 person, one thing that you're going to do again is you're planning out your weekly menu. So in a week, you're only allowed 4 cups of combined of your occasional vegetables. And those include things like your beans and your tomatoes and rutabaga. So plan on where you're going to spend those. And if you can't spend them in soup, then use all your select vegetables in your soup. So turn to your turnips and your celery and your kohlrabis and other things off the list. Radishes are awesome in soup. So don't forget to plan, because it's really easy, especially in these winter months, that too many occasionals may sneak into those journals, or you forget that, oh yeah, I'm only allowed 4 cups. I probably ate more like 8 this week. And so it's easy to do. And so it's just something that we need to be aware of. So
Yeah, just being cognizant. Deb asked a question. She said, is there a certain type of bone to ask the butcher for?
So if you ask your butcher just for a beef soup bone for soup stock, you'll know exactly what you're talking about. And the interesting thing about beef soup bones, so the last 2 times that I've bought them from my favorite grocer, they're totally different pieces of, or shape, I guess, of bone. So sometimes they're great big hunks with the marrow in the center. Sometimes they're sliced thinner and they still have the marrow in the center. Some of them contain a lot of meat sometimes. Other times they're very stingy on the meat that's on the bone. So, but if you ask your butcher, he will, like, even in your local grocery store, he'll be able to point you out to them. He might have them fresh in the back, or they might be frozen in a section. I actually had to ask. So the grocery store where I purchased most of my meat for, I couldn't find them. So I asked the butcher one day, I'm like, soup bones, like, how come I'm not seeing soup bones? And they actually keep them frozen in a side freezer instead of in the meat case, because it's just a less asked for item. And so I never went down that aisle because it's in the same aisle as all the pre-boxed fish and like fish and chips and all that kind of stuff. So I would have never found it if I wouldn't have asked. And I honestly, like, I live in a smaller city, guys, and my butcher knows me. He sees me coming, and if he's there and I'm there, he comes out and tells me what's on sale because he watches me grocery shop. So he'll say like, "Hey, you should try this. It's on sale for $3.49 a pound. You just got to do it this way." Like it's awesome. So even developing relationships with your produce manager, with your butcher, those kind of things in your local grocery store, they can help you a ton. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and Dee always says this, like, if you're not getting certain vegetables and that, they're seasonal or what have you, just go talk to your produce person and they'll order them in for you. And the same way with, cauliflower rice and some of these things that are more convenient for you. Ask them to bring in some different things and they will. So just knowing that you can actually request those things.
Yeah.
So remembering today that if you are interested in a bunch of different holiday recipes, we have this fun interactive booklet that actually comes from, it's branded from my clinic, but it doesn't matter. We're going to give you all different things. So we have Thanksgiving coming up next week. Dee already had her Thanksgiving. It's old news over there in Canada. But down here in the United States, we are excited. We get some time off. It's comforting. And it's a time, Thanksgiving in the U.S. is the most traveled holiday all year long. And you should get to enjoy some pumpkin spiced waffles and maybe some biscuits and incorporating the recipes that we talked about today. I would totally do those herb and onion, or what were those? Onion and, was it herb and onion?
Yeah, garlic and onion.
Yeah, you could totally do those on the Thanksgiving table, and we're just going to give you a lot of different options. And remembering cranberries, not really a phase 1 deal. So just understanding that depending on the phase that you're in, but Dee's gravy that she created, and we all love gravy, but this year you're not going to be doing mashed potatoes. You're going to be doing some mashed cauli or celery root. Here's some phase 1 stuffing, and always enjoying all of our different kinds of veggies and different ways to cook them. We got Deb's Christmas pudding here that Dee created for her last week. And of course, this amazing looking pumpkin pie. And we're going to give you lots of tips on how to survive the holidays. So all you have to do is type in the word recipe, and that's going to come to your Facebook Messenger. Okay, Dee, do you have some tips for our Thanksgiving clients and low carb audience that can help them in the upcoming week as they're shopping for Thanksgiving next week?
Sure. Well, something that, and I know you're doing something similar, you should talk about it a little bit more too, but so in our own personal clinic, even though our Thanksgiving is done, between Thanksgiving and Christmas, people can do a lot of damage. So what we're doing right now is we're asking for a solid 6. And that's not being a 6 out of 10, folks. It is, we're asking for a solid 6 for the next 6 weeks. We're not concerned whether you are a maintenance client or whether you are actively trying to lose weight. We are asking you to be mindful and thoughtful and participate in your journey. So when you're a maintenance client, it still means over the next 6 weeks, just because there's Thanksgiving or Christmas and parties, then that you throw everything out the window, and then come January, you've got to, clean up 10 to 20 instead of, going the course, and you're looking for a loss of main to not gain, because really often that is we love to see anybody at any time of the year, but the mood certainly takes a drastic twist in January when clients are then upset, and so because they did a gain because they weren't mindful. So today I asked some clients for, give me an example of some non-scale victories, that you're doing. And man, there's already some great ones there. Somebody bought a dress, they can't even use it. It's already too big, things like that. So be aware of your space, plan your menus every day, not just special occasion menus, plan your everyday menu. If you're going, again, we talk about this a lot, but if you're going somewhere, make sure that you have food that you can eat. If your host or hostesses are not going to have some, don't use that as an excuse. And I know that can sound like kind of a mean word, but if we can see that we're just not going to care, then that's exactly what you're saying. That, whatever, so don't beat yourself up about it, right? So plan and preparing everyday menu, not just the special holiday menus. And you know what? If you know that you need those occasional veggies, or you want to make some tasty pie or Debbie Parsons Christmas pudding, that Christmas pudding, you would not know that you are on any type of a protocol. I would encourage anybody to make it and and sample it out for your family or your guests or yourself. It's awesome. There's no reason to feel deprived. And of course, ask for help. So ask your coaches, ask your clinic, ask your best friend who's in maintenance with you. If you need your buddy to get out there and go walking with you every day, or whether it's some type of class every night, or you need to go do some crafting, or whatever it needs to be to keep you on track this holiday season. Maybe it's window shopping. Maybe it's walking in window shopping. Maybe you're going to go caroling. Maybe you're going to volunteer. In Canada, we have the Salvation Army. You ring the bells and sing songs, the donation buckets. Like we talked a little bit about last week about the things to pay it forward. Get yourself involved. Get your entire families involved. I had another message today. There's a gal, her husband went into the fridge and cut all her veggies into 1 cup servings and measured out all her protein for her because he's going to back her on board 100%. Like that kind of stuff, like seriously, almost makes me cry. Like, yay. Yeah. Like it's like, so it's some of the littlest things can just mean the most. So, and if you're not sure what to do, ask. And you know what? Sometimes, I asked another question last week, like, what does support mean to you? And a lot of people attached, non-judgment and, well, somebody telling me I'm always doing good. But I got some interesting responses too about, what support means to you. So sometimes it's not being told that you're awesome, but it's people doing little awesome things for you to help you be successful, no matter what your journey. So our goal over the next 6 weeks is totally, no matter maintenance or if you're in the losing phase, is to just be here to support you, give you ideas, encourage you, and no matter how, if you fall off, we're getting back on again. We're gonna keep going. Yeah.
I love that, and I love the term solid 6. All right, that's pretty cool. And yes, on Facebook, I have a group called Maintain Don't Gain, and I'll put a little link in the comments section down below. If you, and this is for clients and dieters, this is not a coaching group, or a coaches group, I should say. So we're going to start on next Monday of Thanksgiving week, and we will be supporting each other and putting our challenges out there. And I will be jumping online once a week to do live Q&A and just really supporting each other through the solid 6. So good wording. I like that. Dee, as always, I love hanging out with my girl Dee. We hardly ever get to talk except for like 5 minutes before the show and 5 minutes after. But the minute I leave here, I'm off to pick up my son, and Dee's off to do some more coaching. You guys, tell us your questions. Tell us where you're from. Send us your most favorite recipes. Dee will be happy to recreate them in the best way possible. And most of all, we're not going to be here next Wednesday, the day before Thanksgiving. So happy Thanksgiving, you guys. And Dee, I'll talk to you in 2 weeks, and everybody's hello, and have a super happy and safe holiday. It sounds like it's going to be pretty yummy, so be sure you tune in. All right, bye, Dee.